Picture a village so small you could walk across it in 10 minutes. Now, picture its residents, one by one, collapsing. Mid-sentence, mid-step, mid-bike ride. They were falling into a sleep so deep that some of them did not wake up for 6 days. When they finally did open their eyes, they could not remember the past week of their lives. Some described vivid hallucinations, visions of things that simply were not there. This actually happened. Not in a novel, not in a horror film. This happened in a real village in northern Kazakhstan. And for 2 years, nobody could tell the people living there why. The village is called Kalachi. It was home to a few hundred people in the Akmola region, roughly 230 miles from the capital. In the spring of 2013, the first cases appeared. A person would simply stop responding and drop into unconsciousness. Over the following 2 years, more than 140 residents, close to a quarter of the entire village, would experience it at least once. Some went through it more than half a dozen times. Doctors and scientists did what any good investigator does. They started ruling things out. First theory? Mass hysteria. Was this a kind of psychological contagion spreading through a small, isolated community? The theory didn't hold up. Small children, way too young to understand what a curse or a rumor even was, were falling asleep exactly like the adults. Second theory, an infectious disease, something like viral encephalitis, an inflammation of the brain that can cause this exact kind of extreme drowsiness. Kazakhstan's health ministry tested thousands of homes and blood samples. The results came back entirely clean. Whatever this was, it wasn't spreading from person to person, and it wasn't a known virus. Third theory? The water supply. Investigators tested wells all across the village. They found absolutely nothing that could explain cases severe enough to knock grown adults unconscious for the better part of a week, which left one final theory, the one almost everyone had suspected from the very beginning, the clue hiding in plain sight just a few miles outside the village: Krasnogorsk. During the Soviet era, Krasnogorsk was a uranium mining town. It operated in near total secrecy until the mine finally closed in the early 1990s. When the mine shut down, it flooded. Deep underground, the massive wooden support structures began slowly rotting in the water. But here is the part that surprised almost everyone. It wasn't radiation. Health officials tested extensively for radioactive contamination and found nothing at dangerous levels. The real suspect turned out to be something far less dramatic sounding. As those old timbers decomposed underwater in the flooded shafts, they consumed oxygen and released carbon monoxide, along with other hydrocarbon gases. These gases would seep upward and settle heavily over the low-lying valley where Kalachi sits, especially during still, windless conditions. Breathe in enough carbon monoxide, and your brain simply starts shutting down. It produces exactly the kind of disorientation, memory loss, and unconsciousness that Kalachi's residents were living through. In 2015, Kazakhstan's government officially stood behind this explanation. Deputy Prime Minister Berdiybek Saparbayev told reporters plainly that closed uranium mines can build up high concentrations of carbon monoxide, thinning the oxygen in the air above them. It was finally an answer. Except not everyone was satisfied. Some doctors and scientists who studied the case pointed out a glaring problem. For open-air carbon monoxide to knock out dozens of people across an entire village outdoors, you would typically expect concentrations far higher than anything they actually measured. Gas doesn't usually pool that thickly outside of enclosed spaces. So, while the mine theory remains the official explanation, and the one best supported by the available evidence, a genuine question mark still hangs over exactly how the gas reached the concentrations needed to cause what these residents experienced. What isn't in question is what happened next. Starting around 2015, the Kazakh government began relocating families out of Kalachi, demolishing homes as the people left. A village that once held over 600 residents shrank down to a fraction of that size, leaving behind mostly elderly residents who refused to abandon the only home they had ever known. Locals still call it, half joking and half not, the sleeping village. To this day, nobody has published a single, universally accepted, fully proven cause. What we have is the best explanation science has managed to build: an old mine still poisoning the air above it decades after it stopped operating. If you know a story this strange and this real, drop it in the comments. Kalachi is proof that sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction, and sometimes it takes years just to get that close.